Most people believe a promotion is a step forward, a sign that things are finally working, that all the effort, the late nights, the stress, the consistency, it's finally paying off. More responsibility, more respect, and of course, more money. It sounds like progress, it feels like growth. But if you slow down for a second and really look at what a promotion actually changes, you might start to notice something uncomfortable. Because for many people, a promotion doesn't move them closer to freedom, it just moves them deeper into the system. Think about how it usually starts. You work hard, you prove yourself, you stay consistent, and eventually someone notices. You're told you've earned it, a new title, a slightly bigger paycheck, maybe a better desk or more authority. On the surface, everything improves, and for a while, it feels good. You feel validated, like you're finally moving up. But along with that raise comes something less obvious, more expectations, more pressure, more time that no longer feels like your own. What most people don't realize is that promotions are designed to reward reliability, not independence. The system doesn't promote people who want freedom. It promotes people who can handle more responsibility without breaking the structure. People who will show up even when it's harder, who will take on more without questioning the trade. And the more capable you are, the more valuable you become, not to yourself, but to the system you're operating in. At first, the extra money seems worth it. You justify the longer hours, the added stress, the mental weight you carry home at night. You tell yourself it's temporary, that this is just the next step, and eventually it will lead to something better. But over time, something subtle happens. Your life begins to adjust around your new role. Your schedule tightens, your energy gets consumed earlier in the day, and the space you once had to think, to explore, to do something different slowly disappears. This is where the illusion becomes powerful, because you're not stuck in the same position anymore. You've moved up, you've progressed, so it doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like success. But if you look closely, the structure of your life hasn't actually changed. You're still trading your time for money. The only difference is now you're trading more of it under greater pressure for a slightly higher reward. And here's where it gets even more complicated. As your income increases, so does your lifestyle. You upgrade your living situation, you spend a little more, maybe you take on new financial commitments, and without realizing it, your expenses begin to match your income. So even though you're earning more, your dependency on that income becomes stronger. Walking away becomes harder, not easier. This is the part no one explains when they talk about climbing the ladder, because the higher you go, the more you have to maintain, and the more you have to maintain, the less flexibility you have. You're no longer just working to earn, you're working to sustain a version of life that now depends on that higher income, and that creates a kind of pressure that's difficult to see from the outside. What makes this even more subtle is how promotions are framed. They're presented as opportunities, as growth, as something you should always want. And in many ways, they are. They come with recognition, with status, with a sense of achievement. But what's rarely discussed is what they take in return, because every step up usually comes with a deeper level of commitment, not just in hours, but in mental space. You start thinking about work even when you're not there. Decisions follow you home. Problems stay in your mind long after the day ends, and slowly your identity begins to merge with your role. You're no longer just someone who works a job. You become the person responsible for outcomes, for results, for performance, and that weight doesn't disappear when you log off. From the outside, it looks like you're winning, but internally, you might feel more tied down than ever. This is why many people who reach higher positions don't necessarily feel freer. In fact, some feel the opposite. Because while their income has increased, their control over their time has decreased. Their margin for error has shrunk. Their ability to step away, even temporarily, feels more limited. And the idea of leaving doesn't just feel risky, it feels almost impossible. The system doesn't need you to stay in one place, it just needs you to stay within it. Promotions are one of the most effective ways to ensure that. They give you just enough progress to keep going, just enough reward to stay motivated, but not enough freedom to step outside the structure entirely. And the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to question it. Because at some point, it's no longer just about you. There are expectations, people relying on you, a lifestyle that needs to be maintained. And walking away doesn't just feel like a career decision, it feels like a disruption to everything you've built. So you keep going. You tell yourself this is what success looks like, that this is what you worked for. And maybe, in some ways, it is. But there's a difference between moving up and moving forward, and that difference is often hidden behind titles, salaries, and external validation. Moving up changes your position within the system. Moving forward changes your relationship with it. And that's a distinction most people never stop to consider. Because from the beginning, you're trained to aim higher, to achieve more, to keep progressing. And promotions are the clearest signal that you're doing exactly that. But no one really asks what happens when progression doesn't lead to freedom, when each step forward comes with a trade that slowly takes more than it gives. This doesn't mean promotions are bad. It means they're not what most people think they are. They're not an escape. They're an adjustment, a rebalancing of the same equation just at a different level. You give more, you get more, but the structure stays the same. And once you start seeing that, your perspective begins to shift. You stop chasing promotions blindly, not because you don't want to grow, but because you start asking a different question. Not how do I earn more, but what is this costing me? Not just in terms of effort, but in terms of time, energy, and control over your own life, because those are the real currencies being exchanged. And when you begin to see time as something finite, something that doesn't come back, the idea of trading more of it for incremental increases in money starts to feel different. It starts to feel like a decision that should be made consciously, not automatically. That's where the shift begins. Not in rejecting the system entirely, not in making extreme changes overnight, but in becoming aware of the trade you're making, in recognizing that a promotion is not just a reward but a new level of commitment, a new set of expectations, a new way your time will be structured. And once you understand that, you can approach it differently. You can still accept opportunities, you can still grow, but you do it with clarity. You do it knowing exactly what you're gaining and what you're giving up. And more importantly, you stop assuming that moving up is the only way forward, because there are other paths, paths that focus not just on earning more, but on creating leverage, on building something that isn't entirely dependent on your time, on shifting from being someone who is rewarded for effort to someone who benefits from systems that continue to produce value. That kind of shift doesn't happen instantly. It starts small, with awareness, with questioning patterns that once felt normal, with noticing how each step you take is shaping the structure of your life. And over time, those small shifts begin to change how you see everything. You begin to realize that success isn't just about how high you climb, it's about how much control you have once you get there. It's about whether your life expands with your income or becomes more restricted by it. Because at the end of the day, a higher position doesn't automatically mean a better life. It just means a different version of the same system. And the real question is whether that version is actually what you want. Because if you never stop to ask that, you can spend years chasing something that looks like progress, feels like success, but quietly takes you further away from the one thing you thought you were working toward in the first place: freedom. And once you start seeing promotions not just as rewards, but as trades, as exchanges between time and money, between responsibility and control, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how each opportunity comes with a cost that isn't always visible at first, how each step forward asks for something in return, and how the system continues to function not by keeping you stuck, but by keeping you moving in a direction you never fully questioned. So the next time you're offered a promotion, the question isn't just whether you deserve it. The question is whether you understand it. Because once you do, you stop chasing titles and start paying attention to what they actually demand from your life. And that's a very different way of moving forward.